I'm Twyla.
And I'm Natalie.
And this is Twyla and Natalie.
And we're going to chat with you about the joys and the pitfalls of being a grown woman.
Indeed. Every week on the show, we ask a question, usually having to do with our own lives. Mm-hmm. And we talk about it. And hopefully while we're talking, we hit on a universal theme or a universal understanding, at least on weeks when we're really deep.
Yeah, that's right. We find some peace.
we try anyway. So this week's question was posed by our own Miss Natalie. Have we lost our spontaneity?
Yeah, I have been thinking a lot about this lately, Twyla. I've been noticing for a while, but really, I don't know why lately it's been hitting me. Mm-hmm. I used to think I was one of the most spontaneous people I know. And I've thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I've traveled all over the world. I've done these things and I'm so spontaneous. And I had to stop and go, girl, that was all scheduled.
Wait a minute. Wait.
I have scheduled spontaneity.
I mean, that might not be a bad thing.
No, it's not. But and what's been really bringing it home for me is Tony and I have his boys half the time. Mm-hmm. And they're fabulous. My stepkids are 13 and 10 now. Mm-hmm. And they're so fun and they're so full of life. And at times, we'll be home and they'll be like, during the summer, hey, Dad, can we sleep in the tent? Because we keep a tent outside in the yard during the summer for fun. Mm-hmm. And, Tony's like, yeah. And then I'm the one going, well, actually, we're supposed to get some rain in the forecast. We're under a severe thunderstorm watch. So, I'm not sure that's a great idea tonight.
Oh, so you're the killjoy now.
I'm the killjoy. So I'm like, have I lost my spontaneity or have I just gotten more responsible? Because I swear to God, with the two kids and with Tony, I feel like I'm the one always like, well, actually, guys,
Okay, well, I guess we need to unpack that because there's a certain part of being an adult that requires you to be
where
the one
that is required. Exactly.
Right. You have to be the one who understands that that's how this works sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is I control my schedule, what goes on. I'm proud to say that I live my life by my own design.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are things, of course, sometimes I just, you got to do because you got to do it. But for the most part, I do things that are my choosing or that I've made the decision to do. I never feel like I'm being forced or I have to do this or I have to do that.
Right. And
part of that, it takes a lot of planning because there are responsibilities. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we're adults, so I mean, it's
we get
kind
to
of
choose.
a given. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how you define spontaneity, and maybe go all the way back to the beginning. Before kids or before any of that, were you a spontaneous person?
Twyla, I had my first child at 19.
So no,
and I was in a cult,
right?
So no,
yeah.
And maybe that's part of it. I'm 47 today. I left the cult around when I was about 40, is kind of just figuring that out. And, and then my children became adults and I have the younger stepkids, but we have them half the time. So in many ways, my life is more set up for spontaneity today. Now I do, the other day I was proud of myself because, Tony said, hey, let's go to this car show. It's Italian cars.
Yeah.
And it was the morning of, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, that's spontaneous.
No, it's not. That's just planning what you're going to do with your day.
But it's that day.
Yeah.
I met a friend for happy hour. And I realized, because I'm like, oh, this is so fun. And I'm thinking in my head, this is some spontaneous fun. And I went, no, we put this on the calendar 3 weeks ago.
But it doesn't, okay, here's the thing. I get by definition, spontaneity is supposed to be like random activity at a random time that's not planned out.
I just feel like to do it right, I have to schedule it. So I'll take a day and I'll schedule nothing on that day. So I have room for spontaneity. And I'm like, I am scheduling my spontaneity. And I can't wrap my head around if this is a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, it's not even that you're scheduling your spontaneity. You're leaving yourself, you're taking care of things so that you have sort of the space to sort of explore things.
Yeah.
And even if it feels a little bit like it's scheduled, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, that is true. Because I have had one of those days and then I had some friends, hey, we're out by your house. Why don't we pick you up, come out on the boat? And I did it. And that was spontaneous. That was not planned.
Right,
so, yeah, you're right. You're right.
You don't have to, I feel like there's a part of you that wants to beat yourself up over the idea that you're not spontaneous. But I don't think anybody is really spontaneous.
Well, I don't see how you can be. Maybe it's a wrong. I have a wrong idea about it, because I don't see how you can be super spontaneous and responsible at the same time, unless you're a kid.
No, I can.
How's that?
I mean, mind you, I'm not going to discuss it in detail, but I'm spontaneous during
well,
the
I'm
day.
not talking about sexual spontaneity.
Well,
I mean,
I am.
That's easy.
but it counts.
It does count, and and I wasn't going to bring that up and add it to the conversation, but now that you did, Twyla,
yeah,
that's
I mean, I'm not going into detail. Don't go crazy.
No, but my realization was that's the only area where I feel like I'm spontaneous.
Ain't that enough?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just, I mean, I feel like if you're doing it right, that's enough.
That's true. And
I'll do dishes consistently Monday through Sunday.
Yeah.
No questions asked at 4:45 if that is enough. Thank you very much.
That's true. And I don't feel like I'm lacking.
Right.
I don't feel that I'm needing more spontaneity. My question to myself is it something I ever had, and is it something I should be doing? But I think because I have that contrast with the kids where I'm the one, and my partner is very spontaneous in many activities, I'm the one in the household going, well, hold up, guys.
Well, but it's not bad to be the person that's like, pump the brakes. It's okay to be that person.
And I always find a solution. I go, you know what? It's probably not going to work tonight, but why don't we shoot for Friday? Because it looks like it's going to be really clear. And then I try to add something to it. Why don't we also then do this?
See, that's so nice. You do it and then you add value. I just say no. I'm not. My kids are, can't sleep in a tent. No. Why? Because we don't have a tent. It's real simple, kids. I'm not going to be the ones like, let me go and see if our friend has a tent we can borrow. Nah, girl, that's a lot of work. Y'all will figure out some other way to have fun. That's okay. Now, in terms of spontaneity, like now that you've said that, I was like immediately in my head, I was like, do I do that? Am I like that in my real life? I actually think I have a lot of spontaneity in my life that I don't actually consider spontaneity. I usually just kind of consider it like play. For me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of our weekends are at least one day of every weekend is fairly unscheduled. Mm-hmm. And so, unless we have something we paid for, because we don't miss things we pay for.
Yeah.
We just kind of get up and do what we do. So if I get up and, and that morning, and some mornings out, like some weekend mornings, I'll get up and I'll read for 3 hours in bed. Mm-hmm. And the kids will wander in from wherever they're wandering in, and the dog will wander in, and everybody will wind up in my bed reading or hanging out.
Yeah.
Some days we get up and we do big breakfast, and then we say, hey, let's take off and go to the lake today for a couple hours, or let's go get outside. Like, my favorite way to be spontaneous is to kick all of my children out and say, hey, go put your play clothes on and go play. And they're like, well, but what are we going to do? I don't know. Go find your friends.
Yeah, get out.
And we'll tell them, and I'll tell them, here's your time frame.
Yeah.
See you later. And they'll leave. And then I will go through, my house and go, okay, what's the thing that I wanted to do? Yeah. And spontaneity doesn't always mean you have to be doing something fun. Like, for me, sometimes spontaneity is, hey, I got everybody out of here. I'm going to get all those stains off my couch.
Yeah. Which actually, even though it may not qualify as fun, it's enjoyable because there's a big payoff.
Yeah. There's a satisfaction that comes from getting to spend the time doing something that you had been wanting to get to, or that was important to you, and you just didn't have the time to do it.
And when you put it that way, that makes, you know what, I guess I do that, but I guess that was my question, because those days are somewhat set. I'm a big believer in, I don't like to have a lot of things scheduled and set, especially summertime. I like the kids to be able to get up and go, hey, what should we do today? There's some things, of course, that are organized if they have sports and whatnot.
Right.
But I love that. And I guess I didn't see that as spontaneity, but I guess it is.
Now, see, I always like the spontaneity to come. I feel like there's different levels of spontaneity.
Yeah.
Like when you said that you have you plan out everything. Mm-hmm. I try to plan for spontaneity within the things that we plan. So I do, which sounds weird, but it's kind of that it's kind of the idea of like having a little bit of magic show up.
Yeah.
When you need it to, or when you want it to. So like when I take my kids on a trip, the little bit of magic shows up in that we plan for these activities and we plan for certain things. But I always plan for, like little things, like I'll pack their secret favorite snack in the suitcase. Mm-hmm. And then when we're like day 2 into the trip and we've been walking like crazy people because my husband thinks that, we're the Griswolds on vacation and we have to see everything.
Yeah.
And my kids are like ready to melt down. Not only do they have a snack, but they have like their favorite thing, like the favorite thing that I never let them have is like mysteriously in their possession.
Oh,
like that's, it's stuff like that. Or like we always have a rule on airplanes Then on the airplane, there are no rules for food and snacks. Like, you can always have your abundance of the thing that you love.
Sure.
Because it's an airplane and it sucks to travel, and it's,
And you might die.
Well, I mean, I don't make it that more.
This might be your last flight, kid, so break out the M&Ms and Oreos.
Well, I mean, but there's 5 of us, so we're almost never together, and there's always like some sort of, like rolled eyes.
I'm sure the other passengers love when all your kids are on that sugar high.
Well, but it's funny though, like, because all the rules at our house and all the rules on screens and things like that, all that goes out the window. So as soon as they get on an airplane, they get situated. They know that means you could watch that screen as much as you want. Here is your favorite snack. I don't care if it's 7:00 in the morning. Girl, have those hot tamales. It's 7 a.m. When the flight attendant comes and goes, "Can I have a drink?" My kids all looked at me like, "Can we?" Yes, go ahead and have a pop. You know why? Because travel is hard. And I've already put you through the paces of early morning travel, packing a bag, going
you
to
like
security.
to show up 3 hours early before a flight, too.
Amen, sister.
So.
And our flights are usually at like 5 a.m. So we are spending the night at the airport. So I try to work in a little bit of like magic in those spaces.
Yeah.
I even kind of take it sometimes as far as if my kid had an eye on like a book or something that they wanted, and I'll say, well, no, we're not getting that right now. I'll get it.
Yeah.
And then it'll be packed in our things. And then when we get on the plane, they're like, I don't have anything to, there's a book I wanted. Yep, I know.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. You know, but I try to build in for like small little like moments of spontaneity like that that it feels like it's magic because it just appeared.
Yeah. And that is the beauty of children and having children and being able to do that.
Yeah.
My stepson had a birthday and he had mentioned 3 things that he thought would be really cool for his birthday. He wanted sushi. He wanted a cereal bar. Like a bar of cereal. Yeah. And creme brulee. The only one of these 3 things that I had any interest in was a sushi. So we took him for sushi, which we both loved. And our birthdays are close to each other. So we celebrated together. And I went, and even though it was totally against my better judgment and gave me a physical reaction in the grocery store to buy the cereal that I bought.
But you did it.
I did it. And I'm not a believer. I think it's super gross. I'm not even going to get into it. But I was like, he wants a cereal bar. One time's not going to kill him. And we did it. And then I watched YouTube videos and learned how to make creme brulee.
Wow. And I would have just went to the place I like to get it and ordered a bunch. I'm like, you can make a lot for me, right?
And surprised him with it. After dinner, we all torched it together.
Oh, that's
they
really
thought that
sweet.
was super cool.
But that's honestly, that is kind of the spontaneity of those. Sometimes it does require more planning on our end to get that spontaneous moment. Mm-hmm. But I don't really care how we get there as long as we get there.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's part of the thing is in our households, and it's probably the case for you. I noticed for me is I'm the one planning it.
Yeah.
So even though it is spontaneous and it's this magical thing and it's wonderful, I'm the one planning it, so I kind of know all about it. Everybody else is like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I love seeing that and I love sharing that experience.
Okay, now I will have, this is a great example of what happens when you put that kind of effort into being that person. Sometimes it comes back to you in the sweetest ways. Yeah. We took a family vacation this summer, and we go somewhere every summer. And this summer we picked the illustrious city of Baltimore.
As one does.
As one does.
Because Hawaii's so boring.
Yeah. So we had everything packed, and we got to, we flew into Baltimore's airport. We got a rental car. And as we're, we go to drive, and my husband says, okay, everybody, get situated. You might as well just take a nap. But it's going to take us an hour. And I'm thinking, but we're in the Baltimore airport, and we're just going to downtown Baltimore. Why is it going to take us an hour to drive there? Mm-hmm. But at this point, I'm so tired. I'm like, okay, whatever. Just wake me up. So we're driving, and, all of a sudden we go out of the city and we're more into like green space and things like that. And I'm like, where are we going? Yeah. You've picked a terrible time to decide you want to dump me in the woods. Our kids are here. They'll know.
Can't hide a body that way.
Yeah. So we kind of keep going. And eventually I start seeing, ocean. I start seeing shoreline. And I'm like, what's going on? And I look at him. And then I happen to catch my daughter's face in the rear view, and she is grinning like the cat that ate the canary. She's just like, aha. Mm-hmm. So we finish driving. We pull up to this beautiful little resort, like just an adorable little resort with just a bunch of bungalows. And so my husband took the first 2 days of our trip and planned like a separate beach trip. Wow. In the vacation.
So that's a great surprise.
Yeah. And the best part was I'm usually the planner. So I had planned out Baltimore. I had planned out, like, do you guys have your tennis shoes and your extra pair of socks? And we're going to do a lot of walking, and girls have a good bag. And Is your
Nobody had a
camera
bathing
charged?
suit.
Yeah, like no. Actually, we always stayed somewhere with a pool at a hotel. So
Yeah.
I had, I did all of that like I usually do. My
Yeah.
husband plans the logistics of travel. I plan
Sure.
the logistics of family.
And packing.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was such a lovely surprise that when we got there, it was like, wait, you did this? And my husband even said, I know we're going to Baltimore. I know there's not a lot to do in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted us to have at least a little bit of something extra.
Yeah.
And then my daughter just happily hops out of the car. She goes, I knew about this all along. So she was super excited about it. And we spent 2 days like playing on the beach and, you doing the paddle boards and kayaks
Mm-hmm.
and the whole kit. And it was a lovely little, and even though I had done all of the usual planning
Mm-hmm.
and done the usual stressing myself out about getting us from one place to another, it was just nice to know that there was like that extra layer going on that I
Yeah.
didn't know about that wound up working out beautifully for everybody.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so there was, so I got there. Sometimes you can build in and have a little bit of spontaneity for yourself.
And that's a great example of a really good surprise. You know?
Yeah.
Lately, I feel like the surprises I get at home are when I walk around the corner and one of the kids jumps out and scares me.
because you live in a house full of boys.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens. Now, I do have a question for you. What's
Sure.
in this question? Do you find yourself practicing spontaneity with sort of other facets of your life, like away from your kids or away from, like your immediate like friend group or anything like that?
Gosh, I don't think so. I think the most things I do, when I think of something as being spontaneous, it's something that's not really planned, not planned. I do a lot of that with Tony. We'll do things on our time where we just decide at the last minute we want to do something or we want to change course on it. And that's why we don't like committing to plans on certain days, because we want the freedom to be able to do that. I think I tried to remember the last time I did something like that. And it was when I went on a road trip with my mom and my sister. Before my mom died, we took her to the Black Hills.
Mm-hmm.
She had never seen Mount Rushmore. She wanted to see it.
Oh, wow.
And on the way back, I took a wrong turn and was going down this road and came across a hitchhiker. And I pulled over to pick her up.
Hold on. Hold the phone. I mean, now mind you, rationally, I know you're fine. You're sitting here.
Yeah.
But what were you thinking?
Well, it was a girl, for one. It was a female.
Oh, my gosh. Like,
And
girls can't
in
be
that
serial
moment,
killers.
I know, but in that moment. And
Have you ever seen that movie Monster?
Yes, I know.
See, they can do
I know.
they can-
And normally, Twyla, when I'm
Okay.
faced with a situation, my brain runs through a matrix of possibilities and outcomes.
Right, because we're survivalists.
And I weigh them. And that's part of, I'll get into more of that later, but I think that's part of my thinking and why I struggle with this. But in that moment, none of that. I knew, this was the last trip I was ever going to take with my mom. And I'm pulling over. And my mom's like, Nat, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to pick that woman up. She's hitchhiking. She's got the backpack, got the thumb out.
I can't even believe you
My
did this.
mom is yelling from the back, no, don't you dare pull over. And I look at my sister, and my sister looks at me and gives me the nod. I'm like, all right. So I pull
cannot
over.
believe you picked up the hitchhiker.
Girl, not only did I pull over, I picked her up. I got out of the car. I said, look, my mom's a little skittish, and she thinks you're going to shank her. So seriously, like, are you on the up and up and you're cool? I said that to her. Her name is Cindy. She would back it up. She gets in the car. She ended up spending the next 2 days with us on the road trip.
Are you serious?
Shared a hotel room with my mom. My mom ended up adopting the woman.
I cannot even believe
Oh,
you.
it was so great. Oh, it almost makes me tear up thinking about it.
I can't even believe you.
I know, that's totally something I wouldn't do.
No, you're the same person who tells me you're prepared for the zombie apocalypse.
I totally am. And the beautiful thing is, and this is, I think, the lesson of spontaneity. Oh, you know what? I don't know.
No, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, you know what? And not only is that a beautiful thing, but it renders this whole question to me slightly moot for you because you obviously have a spirit of spontaneity that other people don't have.
Well, when I'm not, weighing those options. And it was great because after my mom died, I went to New York on a trip and I found Cindy and she came and we had dinner.
Shut up.
Yeah, and I brought my mom's ashes.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And wait.
I have a picture of Cindy at a restaurant in New York holding my mom's ashes after this whole thing.
I don't ever want to hear you ask if you have if you're not spontaneous anymore. Like, I don't ever want to hear you ask that question ever again. The fact that you not only picked up this person, but you developed, you bonded with this person, you developed a relationship with this person, and that you still have a relationship with this person.
Yeah, we're still in touch. It's been, I think, 5 years since my mom died.
All of this is remarkable. Do you understand? I don't even know my mailman's name. Okay, like I don't. Like, the man comes by my house every day. He drops off all my favorite things, and I don't know his name. I can say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?"
Yeah.
And you picked up a person on the side of the road. I would never, like, my husband has done that a couple of times. And then he tells me about it after the fact because he knows I'm ready to strangle him. Like, don't be picking up some random person in your car. And
Well, yeah.
Like, and he'll be like, no, he was an older guy and it was raining. And I'm like, that's sweet. I just give him my umbrella.
Yeah. And normally that would, like I said, again, it wouldn't be what I would normally do. It's just this was a very unique trip. And maybe that's part of what, on one hand, and again, when something comes at me, I completely, in seconds, I can weigh possibilities and possible outcomes. I feel like the Terminator. Remember when the movie The Terminator came up?
Yes.
And he walks in a room and it's like...
Yeah, and all the stuff comes up and it gives you the scenario.
I feel like that every time something happens or is about to happen.
Yeah.
And I guess I like to think of it as a gift because I can calmly analyze the situation and decide on an outcome or decide on the route that I'm going to take. But that kills some spontaneity sometimes. But maybe I'm just responsible.
No, it doesn't have to kill spontaneity because I do that all of the time too. You know me. When we go to a restaurant, what's the first thing I always do? I make sure we're sitting where I can see the exit.
That's right.
And I don't sit my back to the exit.
Yes.
And I don't sit next to the bathrooms. Those are my rules.
Yeah, I count the seats in an airplane to the exit.
Right. So I mean, we are those kind
prepared.
of people. Yeah, we always prepare for the worst and then expect the worst, and then things just go fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's something to be said for having that, because I think what happens when we go over those scenarios is that it kind of centers us, and then it frees us to do the other things.
Yes.
Because now we're not worried about those things. We've already run the scenario.
Yeah.
So now I can just, go. So, now I can just, whether it's, if we've shown up at a restaurant, or something, I can now just focus on dinner. I can focus on getting to know that person. Or if I'm, if it's a free day for me, which are, rare days nowadays, that I'm just going to kind of fill the well and do creative things. I don't ever put a parameter on that. So, spontaneity for me is, today I have the whole day free. I'm going to do my hair because I want to look fabulous today. I'm going to pull out those magazines and, clip stuff. I'm going to work on some show ideas and just spread out all my craft materials and, figure out what's next for me.
I love to mindlessly go through cookbooks and Pinterest recipes.
Me too. I do that all the time. I have my unused cookbooks upstairs. So they look great. They've almost never been opened.
Well, maybe then I do have spontaneity, but I'm judging it incorrectly.
You're judging it based on picking up a woman during a life-changing road trip. That is not a fair
That's true.
Those don't complement
that
each other.
Is true spontaneity.
Yeah.
And I guess just because my life isn't one where that's happening every day, and I have to schedule days to be open to spontaneity is not a bad thing. I suppose it's better than not having it at all.
Yeah.
I schedule downtime. I could have 20 things going on and I have it scheduled in there. I have this hour and a half where that's going to be some me time.
Right. But that's a good thing
to do.
And even though you've scheduled the downtime, it's still downtime.
Yeah.
And you still get to maneuver.
I can do what I want within that
You
time.
can maneuver within that time the way that you want. We all know how I feel about my birthday. My birthday's a month long and we celebrate it like it's a national holiday.
Oh, totally. That's how it should be anytime you're over 40.
Yeah. And one day it will be. But on the actual day of my birth, I don't schedule a thing.
Yeah.
I just kind of roam through that day. I get up and, I get people off to school. I get people out and about in the world. And I don't schedule another thing. If I feel like getting a dress, I get dressed. If I hop in the car and just start driving, whatever catches my fancy is what I do that day.
See, I love that. I do that with Mother's Day. I don't spend Mother's Day with my kids.
That's okay. Hold on. That's a whole separate episode we're going to be doing. Yeah. Because the first time she told me this, I thought she was crazy. And then she explained it and I thought she was brilliant. And I feel like it's a revolution that we all need to start.
That's right. We'll save that.
Yeah. It even has to have its own name. At first, for a while, I used to say, Natalie has a not Mother's Day. Yeah. And then I was just like, we got to do something about that. So I'm putting a pin in that. I'm not, just so y'all know, I'm not
You'll
forgetting.
have to keep tuning in to see when I reveal it.
Yeah, I will make sure that she gives you all of her secrets because we all need to maneuver this in our lives at some point. We really, really do. But I mean, even that sort of spontaneity of just being able to have the freedom to stop and think is kind of, and I think that's where a lot of my spontaneity lives in my head because I'm always going 50 different directions in my head.
Yeah.
And especially now that with the company, I'm always thinking we need, we need shows, and what kind of shows are we going to do, and what kind of, what makes, if I want to do a show about food, how do I turn it and make it of interest to us? How do I make it different than it was before? So I'm always kind of pushing myself to go in weird places. And I said, me, I'm a good old fashioned comic book geek anyway.
Yeah.
So I always find myself in these unusual places seeking out things that other people would not spend any time on.
Yeah. And those are the things that you find, and I feel I have a lot of adventures. There are many things that come up and I roll with it and do. There's always some bizarre thing going on, especially when I travel.
So do you think this sometimes is a matter of the semantics of it, like the language we couch it in? Because I just consider it play. Like there's a book called Creativity, and this guy has a crazy great name. His name is Mahai Csikszentmihalyi.
Wow, I don't even know how you remember that.
Because it was so odd that I learned it. But he talks about like what happens when you get into a place of flow. Yeah. So when you're trying to be creative and you're thinking too hard about it, you can't be creative. But when you're doing something sort of idly, whether it's like doodling on a piece of paper or waiting till you're drowsy, like if you notice that sometimes your most creative things come to you when you're most tired and sort of worn out, that's because your brain has sort of reached a level of sort of flow that you can kind of, now it's free to operate. It's like it's free of the things you've put on it for the day, and now it can kind of soar. I try to put myself in that headspace as often as possible. Yeah. So whether that means I get up at 5 a.m. while I'm still a little bit groggy and my dreams are still pretty fresh and go from there, or I take an afternoon nap and then I put in that late shift of, I start at 11 o'clock and go, okay, now the ideas are running, that kind of thing. Or when I take my kids and go, hey, we're going to have an adventure today. And they go, okay, where are we going? And we'll hop in the car and we will wind up in the most random places. Or we'll wind up at the thrift store, and then we'll wind up at like the salvage place. Sure. Or we'll go to like art scraps and, pick up random stuff that shouldn't go together, and then we'll bring it all home. And then just kind of go with it. Like I'm constantly trying to put myself in that space, and that's where my spontaneity lives. I might never be spontaneous about dinner. There's 5 of us. Yeah,
and we do that as well. And you're right. It was a matter of semantics. I wasn't seeing that as being spontaneous. I see that as being adventurous. I love. There's a tiny little island by where we live that the kids can boat out to, and we'll boat out to with them and go exploring on it and do things like that. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I'm much more spontaneous than I think. I think it's just that contrast of being the one in the house who has to go, oh, well, wait.
Well, there's sort of a beauty in thinking that you're the rogue of the gallery. Like that I don't have constraints. I think there's sort of a romanticism.
You cannot have constraints when you have somebody with you who's keeping things on track.
Right. Like there's a romanticism in in that. Like, and it's funny, I see that play out with my sisters when we travel. Mm-hmm. Like if we go someplace together or we're all in the same place, we have a routine of things we enjoy doing. Yeah. And we always try to like add a little something, and it's like we try to take each other by surprise a little bit. Sure. And what always makes me happy is that no matter how much routine we try to build into it, there always winds up being sort of this element of crazy that it happens when our sisters are together. And then there's also this wonderful element of there's always the spontaneity of what happens when we're together as a unit and our energies with each other. Sure. That is always translated when we look back at the photographs. Yeah. I always know it's a successful trip with them because the pictures will come back and you can see all the fillings in the back of my mouth. Because I've been laughing so loud and so hard in every picture that you can't help
and your face hurts.
Yeah, like you just have that. It's like it's beautiful. And there isn't anything, we're all of a middle age now, and we all have responsibilities and we all have our own lives. But there's something so sort of wonderfully random of, okay, we're going shopping here today, and then we get here and we fall into our patterns of, okay, you can wear that, that's cute. Oh, Twyla, this is wonderfully ugly. It's all you. Like, that kind of thing, and then even within that, we kind of build in for, like, okay, we're going to have this adventure that we haven't taken before. Yeah. Like we'll push ourselves to go do something different. Mm-hmm. And that's, we all know when the trip is over, we're going back to our lives.
Yeah.
We're going back to our everyday, our jobs, our, stresses, whatever it is. We'll go back to not talking to each other every day because we don't have that chance to.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, we've built enough of a reserve that it's okay that we go back to our everyday.
Yeah, because you can't necessarily live life that way every day. And as you're saying that, I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, I do have a lot of adventures. I just spent the weekend on a pirate ship.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
I know.
She's talking all this stuff about how she's not. I don't feel like I'm spontaneous.
Yeah.
Where did you spend your birthday, Natalie? On a pirate ship.
On a pirate ship sailing down the Mississippi River.
Right.
Like a legit pirate ship.
Right.
It
Would
was
you like to know where I spent my
It was
weekend?
crazy.
You know where I spent my weekend?
Where?
Pulling weeds in my garden. That was it. I was in dirty old ratty clothes pulling weeds.
Yeah, but I think you're right, Twyla. I was getting hung up on spontaneity. I actually
think
do
you're
quite a lot.
worried that you're not as much fun as you used to be. I think that's what this comes
You
down
think maybe
to.
that is it?
Yeah, I think
maybe
you're
because
worried
I'm the
about
one
that.
who often is the one saying, "Hey, this is why that might not work, but we can do it this way."
Yeah,
and it
you're
happens
being
so
responsible.
much. That's true, and I think that is probably it.
But you
And-
are still having as much fun. You're just
Yeah, we
not,
are. Like
Yeah,
I said, we
you're
spent the weekend
just-
on a pirate ship. We're always doing things that are fun.
Well, I told you, like my daily goals, really and truly, my daily goals are very simple. I wake up every day. I double check and go, okay, I did get to wake up today. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then my goal is very simple. I just want to do the best I can, to the best of my ability every day. If I make the world a little bit better today than it was yesterday, because I lived as sort of honorably as I could, then I feel good about that.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like, okay, I woke up successful, working hard, successful. The third thing is I try to laugh as much as possible every day now. And I just, I try to find those moments where it's just really fun or really funny and the thing is, I used to have a standard on that. Like, do other people find it funny or is it amusing to other people? Am I entertaining? You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
If I enjoy it, that's all that matters.
That's right.
And that's, and because if I'm happy, I got more to give you, like me being funny, me finding a way to make myself laugh and enjoy myself allows me enough more space to make sure that you're feeling okay today. Gives me more space to to remind myself to give that person a hug when I see them.
Yeah, and you're better off. You're better for everybody else.
Yeah, because it's nice to the spontaneity of kindness.
Yeah,
is kind of like my goal all the time. And honestly, I didn't even think about that till I said it. That's kind of where I put a lot of my spontaneity energy.
Mm-hmm.
Is making sure that if I see something nice in the world, if I catch people doing good, or if I see you've made an effort, I try really hard to make sure I let you know. If I see you in I saw this woman in the Mall of America and she was wearing an embroidered coat. She had a giant peacock embroidered down the back of her coat.
Wow.
It was gorgeous. And she, she found it or she made it or something, but she was wearing it and she was proud. And you could see how she was walking. And I just couldn't even stop myself from doing it. I turned around and followed her.
Peacock lady.
And I just stopped her and I was like, you know what? I just wanted to tell you, you look fantastic in that coat. You just do. And she was just like, well, thank you so much. And you can tell it meant something to her.
Yeah.
And, and I do that. I've taught my kids to do that too. Like at every turn, if you see something that you think is cool, tell them that you think it's cool. Cause you know what? They made an effort. It'll make them feel good to hear it.
That's true. We can sometimes be quick to complain about something, but not as quick with a kind word.
Yes. And you know what? That was a challenge I set for myself a long time ago because I can be sarcastic. I'm pretty snarky sometimes.
What?
No. I know.
Who said that?
It's hard to believe. I'm so genteel. But I used to, my first thing in my head would be like the snappiest comeback in my head would be with everything I saw in the world. And I remember challenging myself, and I had a conversation with somebody, and they gave me a great piece of advice that it was, if you see something and you're ready to criticize it, instead of criticizing it, replace that with something good that you see going on there.
Yeah, find something you do like about it.
Yeah, so if it was, somebody whose outfit I was getting ready to say something terrible about, then it, in my head I'd be like,
I respect your courage for wearing that.
Well, and it started out like that. It did. And then I had to, then I started pushing it further and be like, you know what though? But that hair color is so good on you.
Yeah.
If it was, if we were someplace and the restaurant wasn't like to my liking, you'd be like, well, the food wasn't that great. And then in my head, I'd be like, oh, this food was terrible. But instead I would go, you know what? They really did put a lot of effort into how they laid out this room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I might not have enjoyed the food, but I just realized I wasn't yelling over my partner to hear tonight. Because
the toilet paper in the bathroom is grade A.
Listen, and you will get compliments from me on a clean bathroom because everybody knows I'm not a fan of the public bathroom. So, I mean, but sometimes it's little stuff like that when you build that resource up, and that, you know, that's if we don't pass anything else along today, well, I would love to have sort of more of a spontaneity of kindness.
I love that.
Come out of this. You know, like that. Like I love the idea of that.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I guess we got to ask the question.
Yeah.
As always, at the end, we ask, hey, have we lost our spontaneity?
And, you know, now I'm realizing I haven't.
No, pirate captain, you have not.
I know. And now I feel really stupid even asking it because you're right. I look at, how'd you spend your weekend? On a pirate ship sailing down the Mississippi. No, I'm not spontaneous at all.
I hurt you.
Yeah, it's adventurous.
Yeah, and that's okay. You haven't lost a step just because you're more responsible now.
Exactly. Not because I need to responsibly plan my days of spontaneity as far as blocking them out.
No.
But I can still have them. You're right. I still am. So, yes, I feel a lot better about that.
Yes, so you are still. I would say I've always been sort of spontaneous in my own weirdly wonderful way.
Yeah.
But if I can pass anything along, I'm super proud of that. I like the idea of sort of generating a spontaneity of kindness.
I love that.
So let's start working on that maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to hear from you guys. As always, go to the Facebook page. Go to Matriarch Digital Media and like the page if you haven't. We'll further the discussions we have here. Sometimes we find some great articles or things that go along with what we've been talking about, and we'll share those and allow for the discussion to continue.
Mm-hmm.
You can always send us a message. There's a lovely little send message tab on the right-hand side. Click on it, and you can send a message to Twyla and Natalie and tell us if you agree, tell us if you're spontaneous, how you're spontaneous, if you've given up on spontaneity, or anything else that you wanted to talk to us about as well. We really appreciate getting to do this.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun. So thanks again. We'll see you soon.